Hi guys, welcome back to my channel and to episode 3 of It's That Deep. Today we are joined by a very giggly Rebekah.
Hi everyone.
She has been in maybe 1 or 2 of my previous videos.
Italy.
Yes, Italy. And what I am going to ask you to do is just introduce yourself briefly. Just say like how old you are, what you do.
So hi, I'm Rebekah, I'm 19. I am a student. I study international relations at a uni in the UK. So I love a good controversial topic. This is up my street. I just can't keep it straight.
I thought Rebekah would be the perfect guest on this show because she likes talking about controversial and deep stuff. So great, thanks. So if you guys still don't know how this works, I have my infamous yellow bowl here, which is filled with a couple of questions that we are going to answer at random. So thrown into this mix is a more light-hearted question. It still might be quite controversial, but it's not as deep as the other questions are. So we are going to set the time limit at 15 minutes and see how many we can get through. Does that sound good?
Cool, let's go. I'll pick one. Ooh. Okay.
Question number 1.
Is there such a thing as a waste of a life? Oh, that's quite deep.
I feel like to answer this question, you need to think about the value of life, if that makes sense, because obviously the whole idea of wasting something is getting rid of something that could have been used. When I first came across this question, I kind of thought of the idea of people dying quite young. So you know when someone gets stabbed or gets shot, people often say like, oh, it's such a waste of their life because they haven't lived it to the fullest. But then I suppose you could argue that there are people that live to 90 and don't do anything. I don't know, maybe that is a waste of a life. It depends how you view what you should do with your life. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it depends what you classify as a good quality life. So I was having a conversation with someone recently and I said, if you live your life, for example, just seeking out revenge, then I consider that as a waste of your time because you could be doing much more fruitful activities with your life, I suppose.
But it's hard to know how you're not wasting your time. So like obviously we can't go about our lives doing amazing fruitful stuff every single moment of every single day. People have different ideas of how they should live their lives. Some people might say that what someone else is doing is pointless or a waste, and other people might see it as no, it's their life, it's their choice. So in a way.
But I think it's interesting because we're all individual characters naturally anyway, so we all value different things. I think it's quite hard to judge, because what you may consider like a waste of a life, I may consider actually living to the fullest, whereas it could be vice versa. So
your life is your own life, so it's up to you what you do with it. So I don't think you can say to someone like you've wasted your life because that's not yours. It's not for you
it's
to
quite
say.
A harsh judgment to make on someone as well, because they might consider your life a waste when they compare.
Waste man.
Waste man.
Waste of space. But as for like what I said before, so people dying quite young, I don't know what I think
But
about
do you think it's okay? So say if they died at 20, but they lived their 20 years loving people, like a good, maybe like a good person. They were like, I don't know, good at sports. Like they just did what they wanted to do. So even if they died, maybe it wasn't too young. Maybe that was just their time. Like they've done all they could have done. Who knows?
Yeah, I guess you'll never know because it's happened. So you can't really say one way or another. Like they died.
It's quite deep, isn't it? Like, everything does happen for a reason, I feel.
Yeah, and I don't think there's any point. Well, not that you should like get over it. That's a bit rude. I'm not saying you should get over it. I'm just saying like I think if people like dwell on it for like years and years, like that's kind of in a way you're going to be wasting your time. Exactly. Yeah. So you kind of have to like just think that everyone is going to pass at some point.
But then what would you say if someone just used their life and dedicated it to drugs?
Obviously it's not the ideal situation. I wouldn't want to do that, but that's obviously my preference. But I think if someone is in that mindset anyway, they're probably going through stuff as well. So I think it's just for each person to decide. Like, you can't really tell anyone how.
There's such a textbook answer.
What?
Like, you know, we each have our own lives, though.
No, but it's true. No one can tell you anything.
No, it is.
You can have opinions, but
I mean, you know, who am I to judge you? Like, I can't. Just do what you want to do.
yeah. I mean, as long as you're like obviously doing good stuff.
But what's good stuff?
As long as you're not like going about hurting other people. As long as you're like.
But what about if they consider that use of their time as like living their life to the fullest?
What,
like,
killing people?
Yeah,
like
I'm gonna go and make him unhappy because that makes me happy. Therefore, I'm living my life the way I want to live it, and that's not a waste of my life.
I personally think you can do whatever you want as long as you're not harming other people. I mean, obviously sometimes people are going to harm you in the process, but like, you should make a conscious effort to like go out of your way. Basically.
But see, so, you know, like a few weeks ago, Shannon and Emma, when you asked them, is revenge the same as justice? And there was quite like a controversial opinion there, but somebody might consider revenge a form of justice, therefore, you know, a good use of their time, and therefore not a waste of their life. So
Anyway, that's another
I
question.
think we're diverting.
Yeah. Okay. What do you think could be done to improve the media?
Oh yes, interesting.
I think one thing for me is to highlight more positive things that have happened.
Okay, so if you look on, for example, Snapchat news, that's just one example, all you see is, oh, the Kardashians this, what, you know, what are they wearing today, who cheated on who did this, who did that. That is not a positive use of media. They could be highlighting
a lot of other stuff.
Important things.
So many things go on in the world, yeah. And it's like, so many things happen every day. Obviously, you're not going to be able to showcase everything because things are happening right now, like, you know. But I think a lot of stuff is just a waste.
I feel like, say for example, if one incident happens, like quite a serious one, so you had the New Zealand shootings, for example, like it's a good thing that they kind of focus on that for a time. But then at the same time, there were lots of other negative things happening that didn't have attention from the media. So it's very much always directed at one thing that will have the most effect on a lot of people. So say for example, if
a big group of people.
Yeah, but whereas say for example, the killings in, I think there were some in quite a few African countries of Christian communities, no coverage whatsoever. They need to be more diverse in the important issues that they highlight, but then limit the amount of kind of silly stories like that just have no impact on anyone.
I suppose you can have different outlets for different stuff, like if you're interested in one type of news. But obviously, you know, how are we going to decide what to showcase on BBC News, because that's supposed to cover like a broad range of things.
News is such a diverse thing because it's also really biased. It depends what gives them the most amount of money to cover, that's what they'll usually go for. What will have the most hits. It's all like financially motivated now. It's not really about covering justice or anything. Same with like political news. They cover the topics that will just give them the most clicks on their news site. And also with news, or like the media in general, not news, they portray like a false sense of reality as well, with a lot of females, models, campaigns. Like it's all very kind of whitewashed.
As well as the news, you've also got entertainment, you've got social media, you've got other kinds of media.
Do you know what I find interesting? The Good Morning Show debates. You can watch them on YouTube. They're like 10 minutes. It's always Piers Morgan arguing with someone, and it's fantastic. Like that's kind of good news because it's giving good controversial opinions a chance to be debated. Very interesting. And not, you know, just, oh, the Kardashians, this person's
You've got
done
something against the Kardashians, isn't it?
Yeah, I think they're just the bane of our society at the moment.
Of our society. But I think I would say, if there's one thing, it would be changing the way or the types of stories that are presented. That's what I would say is the one thing that could be changed. Just so we keep it snappy. because we could talk about the entertainment industry. Media is...
This is very broad,
It's
actually.
broad. Should we move on to another question?
Yeah, but I'm not really happy with these two questions.
Rebekah feels like she has way more to say and she's limited.
Yeah, I feel my vocabulary is just not broad enough. Do you think violent video games contribute to youth violence? Ew.
Would you let your child play violent video games?
It depends what kind of violent we're talking about, like shooting people. Yeah, probably.
At what age would you let them play it from a young age? Or would you stick to these certificates that they provide?
What age do they usually say, like 16?
Normally,
plus?
it's like
It's not 18.
15, 16, but you know, you get kids like 11, 12 playing them.
I think if I saw a change in say if I had a son.
Oh, that's the time! Oh!
Carry on. If I saw a change in his behaviour, then I think I would stop him playing the games. But I think it also depends how long he played them for. But on the whole, I think to an extent they might, with like young, perhaps groups of boys who feel like maybe it's okay to go and punch someone and steal their car, Grand Theft Auto and that. But like on the whole, I don't think it's too much of an issue. I think movies contribute quite a bit.
Oh, do you think movies more than video games? Because I feel like with a video game, it's interesting because you're actually making the person move. You're doing all of the stuff yourself, whereas with a movie, you're just watching it. So I don't know. I feel like if they did want to play those games, I think I'd probably say like I'd limit how much, or maybe like I wouldn't necessarily let them play at like age 7.
No, I don't think I'd personally go and buy them the game. I think I'd just be like...
Yeah, it wouldn't be my first choice, do you know what I mean?
But then how, if that's like the thing that people are playing, how do you then say, oh actually...
And also it's not, in those video games as well, there's a whole plethora of things that are questionable, like it's not just the violence, you know, in a lot of these games there's like people doing questionable stuff, like there's like prostitutes and like
sure,
people
actually.
stealing stuff and I guess drinking loads of alcohol, doing drugs, that kind of stuff. Or,
like I wouldn't say it completely contributes, but I think to an extent maybe. It depends, like if they play 10 hours a day, then they might think, oh this is okay to actually do in real life.
just get sucked into it.
Yeah,
but that's not reality.
It's a sticky one still.
The timer just went off, but we want a bonus question because we're kind of like riled up. So I'm going to choose it. Should smoking be banned?
No. I mean, then you can argue alcohol should be banned.
Yeah.
Because it affects other people. No, I don't think so. I think it's already been banned to an extent that it's not allowed in public buildings, inside, in certain areas. So if you ban it completely, then I think it's unfair for those who perhaps even enjoy it.
Yeah, it is the person's choice what they want to do with their body. I mean, you could argue that people that become ill from smoking is a waste of the NHS's time. But I think it's just one of those inevitable things, like people are going to do stuff like smoking, drinking, you know. It's not something that I think should be, like you said, we already have guidelines as to where and when you can smoke and how old you can be to buy cigarettes and stuff like that. So I think, I really hate smoking, I'm just putting that out there, I flipping hate it.
If you bring up the NHS argument, then it should be a case of the NHS prioritise who to give organ transplants.
That just opens up a whole can of worms, to be honest.
Well, exactly, so then you can't really ban.
Yeah, exactly.
Because then you could argue, actually, let's ban alcohol because Dave down the street hit a femur when he was drunk, therefore the whole country should suffer because of it.
Yeah, it's true. I think we're in agreement.
Yeah.
Rebecca's going to read out the light-hearted question to finish off. I'm creasing already.
Do you put milk in your tea first or last?
I'm just creasing because we already argued about this before.
This is like an ongoing debate between us.
I personally would add the milk in after I have made the tea because you don't know how strong you want the tea to be. You might want a lot of milk, you might want a little bit of milk, but you can only make that decision when you have the tea in the
But
mug.
can I just say, if you, as a fanatic tea drink, you should already know the ratios of your ingredients.
Sometimes I want to switch it up.
Oh yeah. I personally.
What if I'm making it for someone else? I make a lot of tea for other people.
Okay, then you put it in last, but for yourself, what I like to do is put the tea bag in, put the sugar in, and then.
Oh my days! How can you even do that? You can't even mix the sugar in.
Listen,
because it's liquid.
No, it melts afterwards. And then put about this much milk in, not too much, and then put the water in. It looks white at first, but then the tea bag infuses.
Do you know tea was never made to be drank with milk, so therefore your argument is redundant.
And
because
so is
it wasn't, no, but if you are going to add any milk, you would do it last because normally you wouldn't have any milk, so you just have the tea. Boom.
Well, you shouldn't be drinking milk either then.
Well,
If that's the traditional way and you like tradition, then drink it black.
I hardly use any milk to be fair.
No,
I just don't want to ruin my tea.
it tastes the same. Okay, when she came to my house not recently, but half a year ago, I made her a cup of tea. Then I asked her, "Do you taste a difference?" No.
Well, obviously not. There's no difference, but
You
it's
just said it doesn't taste the same.
No, I'm saying it doesn't taste the same if you have no milk and milk.
No, you were talking about milking them first.
No, I was talking about no milk.
Okay, well I've always...
There's no difference, obviously, but it's just weird.
Why is it weird?
It's just weird.
It's not weird.
I'm sorry,
She
it's weird.
eats ketchup with her Christmas dinner. That's weird. So don't listen
That's
to
not
her.
the question,
Don't
okay?
listen to her opinion.
It's not the question.
It is the question.
Your diet is very weird. I don't know how you can talk to me about
What's my diet?
Exactly, what is your diet?
But no, okay, 5 years ago it was just fruit every now and then.
Well guys, thank you very much for tuning in to this episode. Thank you Rebekah for joining me and for making the video lively. It has been very interesting. So we shall see you next time for episode 4. What is that?